Recently, a lot of YouTubers have been making videos discussing the state of Trials of Osiris. It's no secret that Trials is in a horrible spot right now. There's so many broken things in Destiny 2 Crucible, and it's just so unenjoyable and has so many problems that it needs to be fixed. But Bungie is going to find themselves in an interesting situation, and they need to take this very seriously. So, let's kind of talk about the problems that are facing Trials of Osiris. I've watched through a ton of videos discussing, the problems with it, all of the YouTubers' rants and stuff, and I really feel like YouTubers are they're just missing a large part of the real issue with Trials. So I want to see that I want to see if I can make a new argument and really see if I can add something to this conversation. So when you're looking at, Destiny 2 YouTubers and content creators, whatever, you're looking at some high level players that, they care about the flawless loot, right? They want their adept weapons to feel strong. They want their adept weapons to be the absolute best. And they want an absolutely amazing reward for going flawless. And rightfully so. If you're one of the most skilled players in Trials of Osiris, you deserve to have some of the best stuff in the game. And I think that is something the game needs, but I really think YouTubers and content creators in general are missing the point with. So there's a lot of complaints about how, the adept loot is right now. All the adept mods just feel like garbage. They just don't do too much, and then adept weapons in general, you're not guaranteed a absolute god roll on it, and you can pretty much go flawless, get a hunk of junk, and slap an extra piece of garbage onto that weapon, and it's just all it does is glow and say, "Hey, I've been flawless." There's nothing special about it. So a lot of YouTubers have been saying, "Oh, they gotta make adept weapons much better. We gotta make these all those mods need to really feel like they really change the gun and really make it absolutely amazing." And there's all those YouTubers out there that are like, "We gotta have better flawless rewards." And to that, I say, yes, that is necessary, but at the same time, Bungie cannot do that without risking creating a serious issue, and I'll explain that in a second. So let's just take a quick reality check here. The majority of Trials players, I mean, at the moment, it's a ton of sweats. Every time you load into a game, you are facing against people who are ridiculously good at the game, as it should be, and it's just, you're looking at a car that you're going to have to absolutely try your best on. It's going to get real sweaty, and it's just going to be an absolute pain. And sometimes it's just a real fun experience to compete, but sometimes it's just painful because you get those cards where it goes to round 9. You get all these little close games and stuff, and that's great for that's great gameplay. But casual players, you're not really going to want to do that. But before people start shutting this down and acting like, well, casual players need to really learn to carry their own weight, and casual players really need to just get better at Crucible. People don't like Trials because, they're just garbage at the game. We got to really slow down here and take a look at what's actually happening with this. So, casual players need a better option to get flawless. Now, there's been suggestions, hey, why don't you put matchmaking in, or, stuff like that. And that's honestly not a solution, but let's just kind of talk about where it is right now. So if you're a casual player and you want to get flawless, odds are you'll probably look at your friends list, and if you don't have any, you don't have any friends online playing Trials or whatever, you got to resort to using the absolute disaster that is LFG. And if you look at LFG on a Trials weekend, which I encourage everyone to do, this will just prove my point. Go on LFG on a Trials weekend and just try to count how many posts are people saying, hey, we'll carry you to the lighthouse for, $30 or whatever, or, $45 for all 3 characters, come on in, come get your flaws, come get your adept weapon. You have all of these pay carry services that are like, hey, guaranteed flawless, 15 minutes, ghost lobbies, whatever. You got all these people out there that are like, they're treating casual players as, hey, you can go flawless, but you're definitely not skilled enough, so you got to pay us to use our services. And what you end up with is you're locking the higher skilled players behind a paywall. And To an extent, that's actually okay. If someone wants to make, money off of playing trials, they should be able to do that. Fine, whatever. But you can't really have it set up to where there's not an option for casual players to go flawless because they're stuck with, you're either going to pay to have someone carry you or you're just going to have to keep trying LFG group after LFG group and hope for the absolute best because that's just not going to happen. So, if you're looking at a casual player's perspective on LFG, it's always coming down to, well, do I try this group and see if they're any good, or do I just pay the money, get the weapon, and do all that? So why am I bringing this up? Well, think of it this way. Let's say Bungie buffs adept mods, adept weapons, and just, the absolute best stuff is at the lighthouse and everyone gets what they, all the higher level players get what they want. Finally, the lighthouse finally has the absolute best loot. Okay, fine, but you're definitely locking out a group of players from getting that loot. And what I mean by that is your casual players are stuck with, okay, well, if I want the absolute best stuff in the game, I'm stuck with LFG and hoping to maybe get there. Or, hey, I can just pay for that. You can have player induced, microtransactions. I can just pay this guy. I can just stand there and spawn. And he'll go out, kill the entire team, and yeah, fine, I'll get my weapon, whatever. You can't have it to where you have players making the game pay to win. You got to have some way for your lower level players to get to the lighthouse and experience that loot as well. So, I mean, it's great to have loot for higher level players. I mean, fine. If you are skilled at trials, you deserve to have the best. But if you're going to put an effort into trials, you should definitely have a chance to get that weapon. And it should be a decent chance until you're not just absolutely locked out and just, you're stuck without it. That's a huge issue. So Bungie needs to really look at this in the sense that adept weapons need to be better, but you cannot enable the pay carry services to turn the game into pay to win, because that will just ruin the experience for everyone else and kill the player base for trials and essentially make the game worse overall. So, hey, they're in an interesting scenario of if we're gonna reward people, you can probably if you go in and make the adept weapons better, you're gonna make less people play the game in return. Or if you just find if you leave them alone, you're not really getting anything out of it. So they really need to think through a clever solution to this and really come up with something that really works for them. Now, the next part of trials that I want to address is Stasis. We all know Stasis is ruining Crucible. The state of Crucible is garbage with Stasis. It's not fun to look at. It's just stupid to come across. And a lot of players are complaining that, there's so many little, there's a ton of crutches for lower level players to use in trials. There's all this crap they can use, and it's just stupid. All the high level players don't like to lose a trials game because the other team was running Arblest, or they were all running, glacier grenades and all that stuff. Like, no one likes to see that. But at the same time, we really need to take into account the fact that things like Stasis, things like Arbalest, those actually are increasing the player base for trials. And now that's a big deal. So, as a lower level player, you can kind of get this sense of, hey, I have a chance to compete in trials this week because, hey, I can use Stasis and that'll help me get my 3 wins. Like, those things ruin the gameplay experience, but they're helping lower level players get into trials. So it's win lose every single time, no matter what Bungie does. Fine, we've introduced Stasis, it's great, but higher level players don't like getting frozen, getting shut down. But hey, lower level players like to join the game and really feel like they're making a difference and feel like they're having fun. And it's just such an odd scenario that's hard to word. You want your lower level players to get into the game and have fun, but the same time, you don't want your higher level players to just find the game so unenjoyable that they just quit because Stasis is ridiculous or Arbalest is stupid. You gotta have both, you gotta have all levels of players in Trials of Osiris for it to work. You gotta make sure that your higher level players feel like, if I go flawless this week, great. I'm gonna get the best weapon ever, and so I'm gonna feel good about it. And you gotta have, your casual players feel like, hey, if I go into trials this week, hey, I'll probably get crushed, but at least I'll have a chance at 3 wins. At least I'll get something. It'll be fun. So, can Bungie do that with the current state of trials? Absolutely not. They need to change something, but there's so many little factors that they have to consider. So, to make trials more rewarding, they got to make sure they appeal to all levels of players, and they need to make sure that if they change something, they're not shutting out, certain kind of players. So just kind of putting the ideas you have for how to make trials better kind of out there for the community, but we really need to come up with a solution that works for everyone. Now, an interesting way that I would say to make trials better, and this is probably crazy to some people, I would say you need to make 3 tiers of trials. And I don't mean 3 separate modes. I mean have a bronze passage, a silver passage, and a gold passage. Make your bronze passage, hey, if you get to 5 wins, you'll get a weapon. And that's all you get. You get it once. And then have your silver tier thing be, okay, you can get yourself a weapon and a piece of armor. Then have your gold tier be what trials is now. You get your weapon, your armor, and your adept weapon. Make it to where there's a bracket that higher level players will look at and be like, hey, I want to play the gold tier card because that's going to give me the rewards I want, and also have something like a bronze tier card to where, hey, if I'm a lower level player, I'm like, I want a trials weapon. I don't want, I want an absolute sweat fest to play through, but, it'll be cool to just, go in and have fun with other casuals. Somehow you got to have yourself a casual bracket and a higher tier bracket, but you also got to make the higher tier bracket accessible to your to your lower level players to where it's fun. So I don't know, that's been my rambling thoughts on Trials of Osiris. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one.